Okay, so what I'm going to be doing here is setting up for basic 3-point lighting. So we got a camera set up, we got a sight wall back here, and we also have little widgets in here. Okay, so we're going to go to the top view, and then we're going to make our first light. Okay, so we're going to go to create lights, and then we have different choices in here. We can use photometric lights, we can use Arnold lights. Photometrics are good for most things, but if you're doing certain special effects, they're kind of limited. You never use standard lights. Those are Max's old lights for its old render, and they don't work in Arnold. So let's do an Arnold light. So you'll see Arnold just has one kind of light because its light can be changed into different kinds of lights. So they just really give you one light. So I'm going to go that, and I'm going to put us a light, and I'm going to put it right kind of in front on this first kind of lens. I'm going to put it right about there. Now, whenever you make a light, it's going to always go on the ground. Okay, that's what it's going to do by default. So let's go ahead and get an Arnold render view in here. And this is what it looks like without any lights in it. So now that I've put a light in here, then it's going to update. Okay. Now, another thing we want to do is we want to prep our scene so that we have photometrics. We have an exposure control set up. So under rendering, we're going to go to exposure control, and you'll see right off the bat, we have no exposure control. Now, basically what this is like a bellows on a camera. So it allows us to control how much light is getting into the camera or to our eyes. So we can adjust the intensity of the light, but I can also put an exposure control where I can set how much light is getting to the camera in the room, not specific to a light. So we're going to change it here, and we want to get this one. It says physical camera exposure control. Now by default, this is always checked on, and basically what this says is if I have 4 cameras in the scene, every camera, you go to every camera to set its exposure control. In some instances, that's an advantage, but for the most part, I just want to set a global. I want to set an exposure control that's good for any camera. So I'm going to turn this off. And so this is my settings here. Okay. So as you go lower on this, we're letting more light into the scene. And as we go up, we're letting less light into the scene. The default is 6, and that's a good medium point to start with. Okay. So that's what we're going to leave our exposure control on for right now. All right, so we have this light, and let's go ahead and we're going to sync this to our camera. And now I can go ahead and switch from my camera view, and it's still going to update over here. So we want to take this light, and we're going to tell it what kind of light we want. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and just kind of freeze my ground, turn the grid off, and I can hide the camera. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change my settings up here so that I can only pick lights. Okay, so this little setting in here is where you can tell it what you're going to pick. By default, it's alt, so you can pick anything. Right now, I'm going to do lights so I don't accidentally pick anything else. So now, as I move this up, then I'm going to get the light up above it. And I'd say what we're going to do is this defaults to a point light, which is like a light bulb. So the light emanates out in a spherical manner. I'm going to change it to a disc. So the light's just pointing down. Okay. And this is built to scale. So we're going to move it up maybe 2 feet. So it's 2 feet above it. All right, so one of the things about lights, and a lot of times, like if you use photometrics, what we're really trying to do is control how soft the shadow is, okay? And the softness of the shadow is based on the radius of the disc. So if I make the disc larger, it's going to soften the shadow. So the larger I make the disc does not affect how much light it's giving off, just how hard or soft the shadow is. So this, you can think of the radius is softness control for your shadow. Of course, this is way too hot. Let's go ahead and turn it down. So let's get 2 tabs out here. So we're going to go down with our intensity here. And let's go down with our exposure. And we get something similar to this. And we want to change to color. We want Kelvin. Kelvin is a measure of temperature. So if you're trying to light things to look realistic, this is what you're going to want. 6500 is pretty much just white. As we go lower, say, 5000, it's going to turn to a kind of an amber light, kind of a warm light. And we can drift up, say, 8000, and then we're going to get a cool light of a more blue light. But for our overhead light, we want to go neutral. So 6500, 6600, something in there is going to give you pretty much a white neutral light. And so that looks pretty good. All right, so what we're going to do now, we're working to create a 3-point lighting system. So here's our first light. Okay, this is going to be our overhead light. All right, so now I'm going to clone this light and make a second light. Okay, so we're just going to go right click, clone it. I don't want it to be an instance or reference. Those are echoes. I want it to be a copy, so they're totally separate. And I'm going to put this one on our left, and I'm going to make this a warm light. Okay, so this is going to be coming from our left, and it's going to be warm. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is switch to the front. And then what I'm going to do is make this a target camera. So what a target camera is, it means that I can place a target on something, a specific object, and as I move the light, it'll always point at the object. So right here, I can go targeted. Now, by default, this is how far down it's going to go, okay? And I know we wanted it around 2 feet, so I'm going to go 1 foot, turn on the target, and then you'll see the target here. And I was going to put it in the center of our object. All right, so now we go back to our top, and I'm going to take that lamp, and I'm going to, oops, I got the target. Let's move this over here, and let's open up. So I get the lamp, and I'm going to move it over here. I get that target again. I want to make sure it's kind of in the middle of this body back here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off the first light. So it's going to go here and turn it off so that we're just focusing on this second light. And we're going to change this to a warm light. So I'm going to go 5000 on this. And so that's going to be a warm light kind of coming in from the side over here. It's kind of nice to play a warm off a cool. So we're just going to hold down the shift key, and then we're going to copy this and put it over here on the opposite side. And I'm going to call this one right. And it's going to be a cool light. Okay, I'm going to go to the front. And I'm going to make the cool light coming in a little bit lower. So I get something like this. And let's go ahead and turn off the warm one. So we're just seeing the cool one. Okay, I want to lock this render view. So what we want to do, so that way I can keep floating around it and quick changing on me. Go to your rendering setup. And we need to switch to the camera I want to go from here. And then this camera will work here, and you want to click this lock, and this should lock it so that it's always rendering there. Okay, set that up. Okay, so now we've got it's got this one set, And we're going to change this one to a cool light. So here we're going to change this to 8,000. That'll be kind of a cool light. I'm going to make this less intense. Let's go down to, and a mistake I see people doing all the time is normalize energy. And you never want to, in my opinion, you never want to do normalize energy. What normalize energy does is it makes it so that it locks the light to the disc. So as I make the disc bigger and smaller, it increases the amount of light. We really only want this radius to control the softness of the shadow. And so we don't really want to normalize. What I find is a lot of times people don't understand this and they are not getting much light. So they're coming in here and this may be set, low, and they don't understand. And they go, well, I want to normalize the light. Okay. To make it, that's wrong. Okay. So we're controlling our intensity here. So since you have this interactive, which is nice, you can click on these and just kind of slide it so you get something. I want something kind of like that. That looks good. All right, turn that one off. Let's turn this one back on. And I can adjust it. Maybe something like that. All right, let's turn this back on. And then we'll turn the top one back on. And now we've got a pretty nice lit. And now this is where the exposure control will come in, because if I go to my exposure control, the exposure control, I'm controlling all of these lights together as a group. So I'm not adjusting the light, I'm adjusting how much light is coming into our camera. Okay, so it's kind of like a global adjustment of that. Okay, so this all looks pretty good. Let's throw some basic materials in here. And I'll make this a little bit bigger so we can see it better. And let's bring up the material editor. So all I have in here right now is just a base material that's on everything. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and hold down my shift and copy this. And let's make this into a metal. So we're going to go metal. And I'm going to apply this to, and I got to change this back to this. So I'm going to apply that to it. And then we have all kinds of nice presets that we can start with. Okay, so under here is all these presets, and this is great places to start. Okay, so since it's a metal, I'm just going to go down here, say maybe polished copper. We'll go with that. So that's going to be a very reflective surface. And so what you need to know is in your material over here, you're going to have a section that says metalness. Okay, and basically the way you can think of it is there's actually two different shaders built into this. There's one that's a metal shader, and then there's one that is a Fong or blend shader, which is more for doing plastic or cloth or something. So a conductor, metal is conductor, okay, or an insulator. So one is metal is off, and on, and zero, metal is off. Okay, so if you want metal, all you're doing is turning it to 1. Now it's a piece of metal. Okay. If you turn it to 0, now it's a non-metal. All right. So we're going to make this a metal. Now your roughness is how rough the surface is. We typically think of metals as being highly reflective, but they're not always highly reflective. And so as we kick up on the roughness, okay, we're starting to make it so that the metal is kind of rough. So when light hits it, it scatters and not directly back right to us, okay? So roughness determines, it's still fairly shiny, but the light is scattering off of it, okay? So when you're controlling your materials right off the bat, we have to determine, is it a metal or is it not a metal, okay? And then how rough is it going to be? All right. So let's do another one. So we'll just we can just copy this one, and we'll call this one wood, and let's apply that one to say this. We'll assign that, and then there's a let's get glossy varnished wood. Okay, now that comes with some nodes already created in it. I don't particularly like these nodes, so I'm going to get rid of those. And into our base color here, okay, so this is your base color. We're going to get an advanced wood node to put in this, okay. And we're going to tell it to put it into the diffuse. And this is going to give us a wood pattern in there. Okay, now this is a procedural texture, so it's not a bitmap, it's a mathematical formula, and it's got a bump built into it, so we can put a bump into it, and then I can go in here on my material. Okay, so if you go in here, I'm going to turn my bump way up. I'm going to kind of over exaggerate the bump. And this also, this material has the ability to put like a clear coat on it. So if we wanted to, we can come in here and put a clear coat on it to make it have more of a glossiness on top of the wood. So we can do that. Let's get a little bit closer. See what's going on here. And then if we're going to put that clear coat on there, a lot of times what we want is to also put this bump into the coating bump map here also. So the bump's going to be a little bit more prominent in there. So this is procedural texture. There's a lot of different kinds of procedural textures you can use. A lot of times for wood, this works for some things, other things it doesn't, and I use bitmaps for wood. But for what we're doing, okay, it's fine. And of course, you can come in here and you can dial in, different colors for your wood, so you can make, the wood look, more of a darker wood. Just according to what the look is that you're after. Okay, and this is kind of like it's saying early wood and late wood. This is kind of like the veins, and it is what you're controlling here. So how much you want it to come out. And then you control the other color too as well. Okay, so we can do kind of a wood, okay, which you might need for certain things. Okay, let's make another copy here. So I'm just holding down the Shift key and making a copy. And for this one, let's use, we're going to put this on this one. We'll sign that. And on this one, let's do, something like a rough concrete. And it's got a bunch of nodes in here, which is basically a noise. And it's actually using a bitmap in here. So sort of a concrete. And I think I might get rid of this bump. I'm going to make my own kind of bump. So let's go in here and get, let's use cellular. Okay, so we're going to use cellular for our bump. And what happens sometimes, which is nice, what I have a tendency to do is I'll go ahead and put it in my base color. And I'm going to unplug it from the bump. And the reason I'm going to do this is I want to get the scale correct. And if you can look, you can see this is like really big pattern on here. So it helps me before I get into it. And I'm going to go for, instead of circular, I think I might do chips. And I'm going to go way down in my size. Maybe something like that. And then I'm going to put a fractal on it to kind of break that up a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to go put that back in our bump. Put this back in our base color. And then I'm going to increase the bump a little bit. Let's say 1. And now we're going to get a nice kind of chunky concrete kind of surface. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And let's do one more. I need to name this concrete. You always want to name your materials. And let's do one more. And let's put this one on the front. And let's make this a glass. Now you have 3 glasses in here, thin geometry glass. That's for like a pane window in your house. And we want to use a solid piece of geometry. Okay, solid glass. That's what we want to use. And so that's going to give us a solid piece here. So we have some options here. And one of the things I wanted to teach you about is people always make this mistake all the time that they want their glass to have a color to it. And so what they do is they think, okay, you're going to come here and change the base color, because that's what you change in any other material, is you would change the base color. Okay. But that's not the way glass works. What it is it's the color, the transparency. So if you go into this section where it kind of looks like it's white, but it's actually not white, it's a light blue. And as I increase this, and it doesn't take very much, then it's like you're increasing the density of the glass. And so I can also, change the color, whatever color glass I want it to be. But in general, you want this, it's almost like you think it's going to be white, but it is adding a little bit of that color to tint the glass. So we don't want to get the glass, and a lot according to what kind of glass you're trying to do. If you're wanting it to seem like there's a big tint to it, then yeah, just slide it up, and it's going to add more density to it. But we normally keep it down fairly low, and then of course it could be whatever tint. Usually glass has a blue tint, or it has kind of a brown tint to it, since it's made from sand. Okay, and that's kind of a material 101 kind of thing. And there we go. So 3-point lighting, and then some materials put on your objects. And okay, that's the basics of a 3-point lighting and just a quick material overview. All right, hopefully that helps you. Thank you.